Hello, friends and kindred souls. Welcome back to Sage Thyme. We have a reading here today for the sign of Aquarius, of course, sun signs, and any planets or placements, as well as your house that Aquarius resides in your natal chart, will all give you a nice window and highlight into how this reading might be more specific to where you are right now. Additionally, I'm being distracted. My kitten is below the table playing with something crunchy. So if you hear a crunching sound, it is I guess she's not a kitten anymore. It is the kitty, Jupiter, crunching around, making fun sounds that delight her. So we have a fantastic reading. It's beautiful. It feels heartwarming. The deck that wanted to come in play today is the Seasons of the Witch, Mabon Oracle. Of course, it feels like we should be in winter, but we are still in the autumn season. And I think that's why this deck really wanted to be a part of today's reading is, you know, we have bigger cycles and then we have the smaller cycles within the bigger cycles, right? And one of the smaller cycles that all of us are in, of course, in the northern hemisphere is autumn. Of course, southern hemisphere is spring, so make this work how it does. But that sense of gathering and slowing down, of reaping the rewards, and also letting things go and letting things die. And there's a sense of the theme of faith and trust that comes with letting things go and letting things die. Because we know, just as the sun sets every morning, we know it rises, or every evening, we know it rises in the morning. And just as autumn brings the completion of life into stillness and quiet and death cycles, we know that there is a period of rest and then spring will come again. So we know that metaphorically and actually, these cycles that have all the components within them are within and throughout our life all the time. And when we revere them in connection with the natural world, with the plants and the animals and the symbiosis of the organic world that we live in, when we live and pay attention in reverence to those cycles of seasons and life and death and so forth, then we also, it's more than paying reverence to our home that we live on. In a way, we are easing up some of the tension points to some of the bigger cycles of birth, life, release, letting go, and death. And so we're participating in all the cycles, and we have this great visual and energetic and atmospheric representation that helps us sync our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our energetics with these rhythms so that they are more fluid and they are more efficient, and we're able to learn and grow from them, which is really, when we learn from every part of every cycle, that's what really eases up and also brings better fruition to the bigger cycles. So it's a really big discussion around it before even getting started. And I really wanted to come through today. I think that I had tried to record this a few times already, and it just wasn't happening until now. That was the big message that wanted to come through as a general understanding of to be a part of nature is to participate with nature and all of nature's nature. And when we do that, we're honoring our own biological systems, our own carbon-based systems. Let me fix this little thing here so I don't get distracted. And we're honoring all the parts of us, both in the human form and the spiritual form, energetic form, the interconnected form, which is really one of my primary words for spirituality, is an interconnection and an awareness, and our soul's journey. So, let's get on. Let's do an herbal astrology oracle card. This will be our overall plant spirit medicine, since the natural world really does want to be a part of this reading. And we'll see what comes out. Maybe it doesn't want to talk after I did that whole spiel about, there we go, told me. Okay. Interesting first card. Forgive the table wobbly. I'll have my proper desk soon enough and we won't have this wobbly anymore. So the card that came out from the Herbal Astrology Oracle is tobacco. And under it, the word offering. And that's exactly what we were just talking about. Tobacco in many, in I think pretty much every First Nations tribe in North America, and from what I understand in South America as well. I don't know about Central, but tobacco is an offering to give back to the earth for what she gives to us. And I think I'm going to hold off on going into this card anymore until I move through the other cards. I will say that until the end. Well, if we have time, I'll get into it more. Mars and Pluto are featured as, you can see there at the top of the card, as the planets associated with tobacco. So let that ruminate a little bit and let's get into this reading. I've got this great chestnut that I found I drew the cards for this reading and then went for a walk with the dog. And I found this little run of chestnut trees right along a busy street. And they're young, so I wouldn't really imagine there being much for chestnuts. But there was one chestnut that had fallen to the ground. I hadn't seen it any other day. And it's probably the biggest chestnut I have ever come across. And it has to come home with me. So for now, it's here and is a part of this reading. The first card that came out is the molasses card. And honestly, I was so happy to see this card. And I don't know why, because sometimes these journeys feel so long, especially when they're the heavy hitter cycles and periods of our lives. And so molasses, it was like, yeah, it feels like trudging through molasses. Underneath it said, to move forward, you must know where you are headed. I'll show that card again. What stood out for me the most was from the perspective of the viewer of this card, they're looking through the kitchen of their home, and they've got their basic delicious foods, eggs and fresh bread and I don't know, rice or something maybe. And they're looking through the open window. The window's open and they see this trail off in the distance in the peak of a house, maybe some building with smoke coming through a chimney. So it's warm, it's inviting, but it's so far out there that from the viewer's perspective, you can't see what it is or where you're going. And so there's those times, like in the fall and in the winter, where we don't know where we're going and we're trying to make progress and nothing's happening, and we're doing all the things right. And I feel like that is something that you've been experiencing and questioning, why is it that I'm doing all the things I know how to do, and I know I'm doing it correctly, I know I'm doing it well, and nothing's happening. I'm not producing results externally in manifesting or in career or relationship connecting, and internally as well. And that can be mentally and emotionally, just going through like a sense of failure maybe. I'm hearing low self-esteem, just feeling like that sense of ineptitude and This card is coming through as this beautiful, and I'm feeling this like heart tear moment here. It's just this beautiful moment or reminder to say you are in the right moment. You are to move slow as molasses. Remember that saying? You are meant to be moving as slow as molasses right now. So savor it. You know, the viewpoint here, this individual has all these comfort foods, warm bread with butter and candlelight and simple, beautiful comforts, a few flowers in a jar, and the open breeze, and on the windowsill there's some crystals and sage and an apple meaning showing the seeds as it's cut open up there, meaning that we harvest the apple, the fruit, and then the tree goes into that dormancy, that hibernation, that death sort of cycle. But that fruit that we have, that it produced, has the promise of new life. It has the seeds in it. So all those things are right there on the windowsill for you to be looking through the future, and you may not see even the path ahead, or you just get glimpses of a thin line of what it might be. But right in front of you, there are little signs all around you of small abundances, simple abundances, and seeds of new life. For every seed is the promise of a forest unseen, right? Okay. The next card that we have is the maple tree. Oh. There is a change coming that is so big, it will shift all that exists. There is a change that is coming that is so big, it will shift all that exists. You know this. And maybe there's a part of you that is afraid to feel the hope for this, but you know it's true. You can feel it. This unheard, unseen reverberation of something that is coming in the not so distant, but it might seem infinitely distant, so future. And it's already here because you're feeling it and you're letting it exist within you, and it feels good, it feels right. Not something that can necessarily be described. It's more like a moment of relishing it. And that goes with the sense of trust and faith that resides within letting things move like molasses. And molasses is sticky, man. It gets on you and you can't, and then everything you touch is sticky and it doesn't come off until like there's a full cleaning going on, and that's part of it. I'm hearing there are still a few things left to clean and clear to make space for the new to come in. But because you're feeling that possibility of what's coming in, and it feels like it feels good. It's like sparkling warm cider. It has a warmth and a zing and an effervescence and a comfort to it. And now I think it's easier for you to clean and clear those spaces within your home, within your life, within your relationships. I'm being drawn to this ring on her finger that is a small bird. I believe it resembles the bird that's also right here. So then she's got one on her finger there. What, is it trying to tell me something? I feel like it is. It'll come through when it comes through. We're not going to make it up. We're not going to make things up, because when it's right and when it's true and when it's correct, it simply comes through. It's clean and clear. We don't have to superimpose our hopes and wants and fears and everything on what's in front of us and available. We can stop and wait until the right thing comes through, and then we're like, Yep, okay, that's it. The next card is mead and wine. There's that warm, spicy drink. I'm not a huge mead fan, but I don't really drink wine or those things, but I do love the sentence. It says, your presence embodied, tasting the pleasure flowing through your being. And this is a great symbolic illustration of that bliss that comes through when we've embodied our higher selves. So when you take the time on a daily basis to do your breath work, your stillness work, your inner focused work, and then the more you do it, the more you have experienced that very visceral sensation of being embodied by your higher self. And it feels like elation and bliss and surrender, and it has parallels to something like meat and wine. You can let go of your inhibitions because you are being embodied and taken over by a greater aspect of yourself that knows what's what. And so to simply let go, which is not a simple process at all, but the idea is, and the feeling is once you get there, to simply let go and surrender and allow that greater aspect of yourself to come through your crown, to come into your body and open up your whole body. And I'm being drawn now to also the colors down here, the deep reds and the yellowy oranges as it moves up, those autumn tones. And we're looking at, again, the lower chakras. So something that came up on my walk before this reading that wanted to be included too was how autumn is a wonderful time, a really important time, as well as winter, I believe, but autumn in particular, of nourishing and deepening the health of those lower chakras. The first and the second being the colors of red and orange, and then yellow for the third. And so bringing our attention into those lower regions of safety, of home, of hearth, of belonging, and being present and participatory in those lower regions of our physical body that house the energetic spheres of home and safety and belonging and self-worth, allows those areas to feel safe enough to heal and release and let go of what no longer serves, and then also to open up and bring in and draw in what is for the best for you specifically. What is the most nurturing? I'm feeling, you guys, I'm feeling such a sweep of incredible embrace. It's almost difficult for me to bring forward any words. There is this incredible time right now, and I feel you curling up with a blanket and your warm tea or cocoa or coffee or whatever it is, and taking in that steam of that warm cup and following it through your body. You know, using an herbal tea that you can connect with the plant. And as you inhale it into your system, and with your imaginal vision, follow it through your body and allow the medicine of that spirit, of that plant's spirit, to move through you as you're doing those deep breath works, as you're breathing in the scent and the memory into your brain and the whole entire aspect of your being. I'm kind of getting lost in it, and I think I have to just, I can't do the reading. I'm in it so much. You guys you're really, really taking the time to embellish yourself, your inner self, with something that there's just no words for. And it feels so calming and nurturing. And I'm feeling kind of a little bit of a woozy, it's that meat and wine card. My goodness. All right, let's move forward. So the next two cards are a bit of that's what was and what is right now, the last three. And then the next two are this is what we really want you to focus on more than ever. This card is entitled the Fawn card, or titled the Fawn card. And it says, be curious, dear child, and explore the world within worlds. Be curious, dear child. The wonderment of a child, of beginner's mind, child's mind, 0 point, is like that of a fawn, isn't it? Everything's wondrous and new and without definition. See, she's traveling to new worlds and new places within the psychic realm. You can see that full moon above her with the moth and her hair out and up and lifted into the ethers. This is highly, highly psychic connection. And she's doing it with that gentle presence and approach of not only a deer, but a deer fawn. She's traveling to worlds and between worlds, not strictly and simply when she's in her solitude and in her meditation and breath work. She's also taking this out into the regular day-to-day moments. And I don't know why I know that. I just do. It's not in the card. It's in the next card, maybe. But she's able to take it in her day-to-day moments because she is so practiced and so diligent in her practice for such an enduring period of time. Her dedication is thorough, and it is so truly committed from a place of not push and insert and shove, but from a place of succumb, surrender, open, but alert and keen inner awareness with her eyes closed. And that is creating an imprint of memory throughout her entire body and her systems and everything that she is, so that she can move from the night into the day, meaning the day-to-day around others, the muggles and the society, and she can hold that positioning of in between worlds, the Hierophant, being in one world and in another at the same time, and being aware of that, being able to hold that, and being able to be in that vulnerable gentleness of the fawn while in the crazy chaos. And the reason why she's able to do that is because she's so practiced at opening up and being embodied by her higher aspects. And when you do that, the more you do that, the more your body and your mind, the human parts of ourselves, are able to remember that that is the safest way to be. Where when, for instance, if somebody were to drink too much alcohol or a substance that's a mind-altering substance that creates that open and vulnerable release of inhibitions, but they aren't embodied by their higher self. They're embodied by an overture of chemicals that are altering the body and the chemistry, the neurochemistry and the biochemistry. But when we do this on a spiritual level, specifically oriented to our higher selves, there is nobody, I say this a million times, I'll keep saying it another one more, there is nobody we can trust more that has our best and highest interest in life than our higher aspect. And it's with us all the time. So the more practiced we become, the more innocent and vulnerable we can be in the regular world, in interacting with those different difficult conversations and circumstances. And we can simply be in that state of heart presence instead of mentally figuring it out and taking it in. And we'll be guided. We'll be guided to speak and say what needs to be spoken and said. We'll be guided to move out of the way when we need to move out of the way. We'll be guided to stand up for ourselves when we need to. And we'll be guided to stay quiet and present when we need to do that. Sometimes all the above. And so this is really your practice. This for the end of the season, but I feel like this is going to be moving into the winter for you, Aquarius. And then the last card that come up is the Harvest Witch. Is that right? Did I read that? Yeah, the Harvest Witch, number 21. And I'm realizing how perfect this card is. It's the last card in the spread, and it matches the first card. Because you can see here, this woman with her child, and her hair is in a braid. And the braid, it looks like to me, turns into this trail that goes all the way off into the distance of this house. And here she is at this house. It says, what sacrifices have you made for the greater vision of what is to be? See, this is where, let me get this lined up. This is where you are right now. And this is where you'll be. This right here is the beginning of what we're starting to see here. And you may actually already be here, but I'm sensing for most of you right now, you're still standing in the molasses, but things are happening. The bread is baked and warm, and you have supplies, and things are feeling abundant. Simple, albeit, but very abundant. And you're starting to jar your molasses instead of being drowned in it. You're jarring it, storing it away for another cycle, maybe sharing it with others. Because molasses is sweet with its bitterness and its, I don't know what the other word would be for it, savoriness in a way, but it is sweet. It does have its sweetnesses, its gifts. And here she is, having come from the window house all the way here with her basket, her child, but she's remembering everything that she lost and had to sacrifice and had to let go of. And no doubt she's remembering that she didn't know if she would have a home at the other end of it. She didn't know if she would have a garden in abundance. You can see the pumpkins there. She didn't know that, and there's some echinacea coneflowers right here. Those are standing out for me a lot too. And I'm hearing loss of relationships, like an intimate relationship, a marriage perhaps. Pumpkins, one of the folklore about pumpkins is, I think it's in the Ukraine, where if a marriage proposal were being declined, she would give him a pumpkin. I don't know the whole story about it, but I do remember that. So the gift of a pumpkin is a way of saying, no, thank you. And so I feel like this is a bit of a marriage or a proposal that didn't work out in the intimate relationship nature. But she has more pumpkins. And pumpkins also have to do with birth and fruition and sustenance and nutrients. And so she has that. And she knows she has several. She knows that she'll be just fine. She has plenty to take care of her and her daughter. And echinacea, specifically, there's folklore with echinacea. One in particular, we all know echinacea is fantastic for immune boosting and colds and flus, things like that. It's also known that elk favor the echinacea coneflower, and they will come to places where they know echinacea is growing when they need healing, when there's a wound, and they'll eat the tops of the echinacea and to help their bodies heal. And there's so much about echinacea in folklore. But she has this in her new space, in her new place, because she's known as somebody, because of the work that she did, that has both nourishing and life-giving fruits, as well as healing and regenerative aspects to her. That's just simply a part of who she is, not strictly because it's in her garden, in the physical garden. That's a representation of who she is and who she's become because of her astute attention to those autumn, Mabon, death into the winter season, stillness, and then into the spring, rebirth cycles. She really got involved in it. And I keep saying she, this is just as easily a he, but we're going with the images on the card. And the child also is representing, the little girl has a stick with a crescent moon on it. She's representing the return in cycles of one's own innocence, because to go through that really long, enduring seasons of letting go and release and loss and grieving, we do feel like we lose a part of our youngest self, and we do feel like it would be easy to simply remain in a place of what's left, which would fall into these categories like pessimism and cynical, maybe angry or bitter. But that's part of the winter season, and that's part of what comes with the winter season. And when you can remember that that is also a cycle that will end and there will be a spring, and you can choose to open up to that spring even before spring comes. Remember, in the January, February season, especially beginning of February, all those bulbs underground are starting to wake up and activate, and it's still frozen on the ground. And they could stay bitter, but they know, they remember the promise of spring, and so they start waking up. And all the little botanical chemicals within the seeds start activating and activating one another, and thus beginning the process of rooting and sprouting again when the temperatures allow for it. And it is the very, very cold weathers, those cold, icy, bitter snaps of weather in the wintertime, that will always create this phenomenon of yielding the sweetest fruits, whether it's grapes for your wine and mead, or berries, or apples on your tree. They're always the most sweet and flavorful when there's been the coldest, sharpest winters. And that says it all right there. That says it all. Okay, I think we're going to leave it here. I do want to say, I'll come back to this card briefly, the tobacco offering, and see if anything further wants to come up. I'm definitely not suggesting smoking tobacco. You can most assuredly connect with the tobacco plant medicine, spirit medicine, by simply getting in your heart space as you are doing that breath and meditation work. And you can say internally within yourself or out loud, you can call out to the plant spirit medicine of the tobacco plant. You can use the Latin name as well, which I don't have here. You know, I'll look it up for you real quick. And when you do that and you allow yourself to let go of the expectation of what comes in and simply remain present in your breath, you'll feel that plant spirit come in and will take you on a beautiful journey. You do not need to ingest or consume it. You simply need to connect, right? And it'll come in. So the Latin name is Nicotiana tabacum or Nicotiana rusticum. And I'm just going to look at this. The key words for this are power, offering, divine gift, invocation, respect, deep alignment with will and purpose. And I think we'll leave it there. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your presence and the heart that you bring into this, the awareness that you bring into yourself. Every step that you take, every minute or hour, every day that you take working within yourself is changing the world in a powerful, subtle, and then not so subtle way. And the more we do it, the more we see it in undeniably profound ways. I'm really, really appreciative to all of you who are present on this channel, who are subscribed and liked and like the videos, comment. That always is helpful and supportive. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Many, many blessings and much love to you all.